Let's go under the hood with the Nordstrom's Motor Medics.
Welcome to the Under the Hood Show. We are glad to have you with us. Russ Evans is here to answer your automotive questions.
Thanks for joining us under the hood.
Shannon Nordstrom is here to do the same.
Hey, welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
I'm Chris Carter here to answer your calls at 866-594-4150. 866-594-4150. Welcome back, Shannon.
Yeah, I'm glad to be back.
You had a whirlwind week.
I did. It was a good week, but it's one of them weeks that you have a lot of fun and you meet a lot of people and you're just completely worn out when you get done.
SEMA2023 at the Las Vegas Convention Center.
All right, what's the one thing that pops into your head as soon as you started thinking about it? When we said SEMA, what did you see that made you is the thing that's hanging in there?
You're going to do that to me.
Yeah. Because you posted, if you go to our Facebook page, you can see a million pictures that you can't help but take. And I know that because last time I was there, I was with you guys, and we all took a million pictures of the same things because you can't help it.
Like I wrote in the one post, these are things that just made me take my phone out of my pocket.
Exactly. And there's so many.
And there could have been many, many different things. So, okay, what was the highlight? This is going to be weird. It's going to be weird.
I think it is?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
Just the marvel of technology to ride underground in an electric car in the Tesla Loop from the north end of the convention center to the south end of the convention center, 40 feet under the ground, and they've got 88 cars just running all the time back and forth. Called the Tesla Loop, and it was all the loop was built by the Boring Company that Elon Musk and company owns, and we rode in a Model Y Tesla. I think our driver's name was Steve. You wait at a little hub, and they can drop you at 3 different points. So you go from the far west hall, and we were running out of time because I was supposed to be somewhere else, and I've never ever made my way outside of the west hall. And we met a friend of ours from Power Sports Nation, Todd Dickey and his wife Diane, and we said we were going to meet there. They're out of Nebraska, and they have an amazing salvage place for ATVs and UTVs out in Nebraska. And they sell a lot online, and so we have some similar connections. And he was trying to tell me where he was at, and he said, well, I'm by the Tesla Loop. I had no idea where the Tesla Loop was at. And so he goes, well, I'll walk to you. You stay where you're at, because I was standing underneath the monorail at the corner of Paradise and Convention Center Drive, kind of next to the main hall, and there's always the outdoor exhibits that start there, and it's where the SEMA drive-out usually is. Mm-hmm. And him and his wife showed up, and they were puffing. I'm like, where did you come from? Where did you go? How did you get there? No. So I didn't understand what he was telling me until the next day. I told my wife, I said, I have to figure out where they came from. So we walked clear to the West Hall, where I found out now, the reason I've never been over there, because I don't go to a lot of the educational seminars, usually meeting people and doing things. And so it looks like a good chunk of the seminars are all held in that far West Hall. And they got a big cafeteria area there and stuff too. But outside the West Hall is where they had a whole nother place and a lot of the overlanding exhibits and these huge, the utilitarian vehicles, like the army vehicles that people have made into houses on wheels and Fortnite type vehicles type stuff that you'd see. Were all out there. And he had told me he was by a bunch of campers and the Tesla Loop. So when I got out there, I go, hey, there's where we load for the loop. Oh my gosh, Todd, you walked like a mile to me. Why didn't I come to you? Because I realized, so no, it's just everything is so far apart. But I would say that there was many highlights, but just knowing that I was jumping in a car, a kid from a farm in South Dakota, jumping in a car that was electric and driving 40 feet under the ground in a tube and popping out like a groundhog a minute 40 later on the other end of the convention center, which would normally be what, Russ, a half-hour walk, 45 minutes at the most.
Were they trucking pretty fast underground?
They were hitting. I had a video going. I should have looked at the speed.
Not crazy.
Probably 40 miles an hour. Yeah. He would hit it, kind of show you the acceleration, but and as near as I can tell, because of the way they were staging the cars, none of them were autonomous. Because when they came out, they would point them to like, okay, stall 7, stall 6. I think that would have been hard to do autonomous, but just the actual drive they could have done, but they were kind of sorting them on both ends.
Mm-hmm.
So that was
a really cool video you posted too, because you go in outside and then there's a drop off inside that you guys bypassed.
Yeah, because we were going clear to the other end. And, but I didn't expect that, and I didn't plan on taking a video. Just for some reason, I walked in there and I said, "This is kind of cool." So I got my phone up because I was going to talk to the driver and just ask him some questions. And yeah, you have to check the video out. It's on our Facebook page.
It was. I was a little bit when it started. I was disappointed at how normal it looked, but then in the loop itself, it gets a little weird looking. I mean, it's a curved, featureless white walls with LED lights, and they made it look kind of cool in the loop.
Now you want to know the other thing that was cool from the automotive side? Lowriders aren't dead.
Yeah.
No.
There was more lowriders scattered amongst the cars in the exhibit cars. And, we grew up with a 64 Chevy as kind of a cool car that my dad had that we actually all as a family went on their second honeymoon with when they gave their lives to the Lord. We rode in the 64 Chevy SS to the Black Hills for this, 2-day honeymoon. That's about the most we did as kids because of the milking operation. And that car was a pretty cool deal. And they are so popular to be made into lowriders, those cars. And so there was a number of those that I saw.
Still candy colored and stuff.
Yeah, the one that I took an extra special video of was like gold leaf on the bumpers. And I mean, the time spent on that car is even the brackets going up on the convertible top when the top was kind of half erect up. And they had the LED lighting in the inside of the roof and the interior. You just got to look at that video of that car. But even they had etching on the arms of the convertible top.
Oh, wow.
Had like silver leaf etching on them. This car was, I think the thing on the floorboard said something about, but it gave you the impression that it was kind of casket-like almost.
Okay.
Is what I kind of got when I read it. But you'll have to check that out. Go to our Facebook page. There's a bunch of stuff there. But and then my last one, which I also took a video and interviewed the guy because it was right near where we met Jeff Firestone, who Russ works with all the time and Doug works with all the time, and Jeff owns Automotive Media Experts, and he is the one that helps us with relations with partners and vendors that work with us on the show here. And I got to meet him again for lunch and just talk to some of our partners on the show. But as we were there, I'm like, this is a Tremec booth. Yeah, Tremec, rusted factory performance. We had that business for a while, and
transmissions.
Everybody wanted a Tremec 6-speed or a Tremec 5-speed to put behind their factory performance kit if they wanted the manual tranny. That's what you got. You went and found a Tremec tranny.
The new Mustang.
Yeah. And so it's world renowned. But what was weird about this that I didn't see immediately, I saw the Tremec logos and the big booth, but 2 cars on the one side, and then I looked on the other side, they were all electric conversions. And they had recently bought a company called Electric GT, and they are manufacturing now a drop-in kit for a street rodder that's a full electric, 150-mile range, lots of torque, lots of horsepower, trying to build it in a way that it would easily replace the weight balance and everything of where you place the components to take out of they had an example on the floor of a Mustang where they had pulled the gas power plant out, and then the transmission itself is still like a 6-speed. And I think Toyota just had something in the news recently where they've got a manual tranny in an electric car, and it's all automated, it's all simulated. And they said they drove it, and Motor Trend or somebody, and they said it feels like you're driving a straight stick. But they've made a transmission that is a similar, a thrust drive, I guess they would call it, that's a similar footprint to the Tremec 6-speed. And it will bolt up and go directly behind, that typical feeling and right into the car. And but they had a Jaguar E-Type that they had done the repower on, and then their Mustang, which I took some pictures of, and it had on the car all the vinyl to show where the components were in this Mustang that they had replaced.
That's cool.
And so they had done a really good job with that. And so, but that Jaguar was a pretty cool car. But I asked the guy when I didn't put it on the interview, but the kit, any guesses on price?
Oh,
you just,
$110
for an electric conversion.
Yeah,
kit
for the
like
Jaguar conversion kit, it'd be any car, but
$27,000.
Okay.
$70,000.
70.
I'll keep my answer.
And that's a plug and play kit with, I believe, with assistance to help you,
Right.
Type of thing.
Plug and play, and literally they'll go, okay, this will now fit yours.
Yeah. But it was that there was, I don't want to I'm not super electric crazy myself, personally. I know that there's a place for it because I love electric golf carts. That was a bad reference, but I always want the electric one instead of the gas.
Yeah.
But it is pretty amazing just to see the technology put into practice. But I'll just end with this. Their technology corner that they had that was all electric stuff, wasn't a lot of people crawling around in there compared to the rest of the hall.
Right. Yeah, you said that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're going to spend $70,000, wouldn't you rather dump that into a restoration and a big gas motor than
Yeah.
just the electric motor for your Jag?
Depends on where you're at in life.
Yeah.
Unless you can afford several cars.
But that Jag, when you open the hood, it's one of a kind. It's that's pretty cool.
I said this to you. That Jag it's so beautiful. I don't even see it as a car. And looking at it in your video and looking at the pictures, it doesn't make me feel like driving at all, or it doesn't interest me from an automotive level. I want to put it in my living room on a pedestal and just look at it.
Yeah, it's
it
pretty
was
cool.
really something.
Yeah, pretty cool.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you. The phone number, 866-594-4150.
Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com.
866-594-4150. Welcome to the Under the Hood Show. I want to just one more thing before we move on. We have space for calls, so let's go.
Yeah, 866-594-4150. I can talk all hour, but we like you better.
The F1 race is coming up next weekend. Are they ready? What's going on with that F1? It's been kind of controversial down there because they've had to shut everything down for
here's
a while.
Here's my indication of how serious this is. There is a VIP grandstand and all this stuff in front of the Bellagio fountains.
Huh.
That just doesn't happen. But the hotels have their dedicated space where they can apparently put their seating to have guests to be able to get packages. But I would say I could have led with that, the most impressive thing I saw. And I appreciated it more after I started doing a little bit of Google work. Just understanding the investment.
Yeah.
They're investing $500 million in year one to put this race on. And so I think I put that video on the show page. I've got one of riding an Uber, and we were going from the convention center area, or we were at the Venetian area, and we're going up, and we're going to go up towards the Cosmopolitan if you've ever been up in that area. So you're crossing a pretty busy area of the Strip. And I got my phone out the window, and the entire way is all stage pillars, all built out already with all the lights.
Trusses with lights.
With lights the whole way. But then, thanks, Russ. I couldn't say the right word. And then they've built all these enclosed VIP suites all along them. And they're not finished yet, so underneath you can see all the plumbing. They're putting huge tanks in for water and sewer, I'm sure. And it's built out all along the Strip. And I thought, that's kind of crazy that they're doing all this. And I'm like, I didn't understand, and I hadn't looked into it a lot, the lighting. I'm like, okay, why is the lighting? Oh, now I find out they're doing this Saturday night at midnight, basically. So it's going to start Saturday at 11:30 is when the broadcast on TV starts on ESPN and on Eastern time, I think. But then it's going to be, in our time, I think it's going to be midnight. They're going to start the race. And
I could check.
And yeah, but regardless, the build out around town is crazy. And yes, the controversy is very high because there's a bunch of the hotel properties that went together to bring this here. They wanted to help. And there's a lot of other people that are smaller operations that I don't think probably had a lot of say in it. They're getting their access stopped. There's not people able to get in. They're over budget, of course, but they anticipate the economic impact to be $1.4 to $1.5 billion in year one. They've got a 10-year contract. So we're thinking this is all pretty neat, what we had seen, and there's a lot of buzz about Formula One. But as we're leaving in our Uber on Friday morning to leave town, we go back behind the Venetian, and I could see it from our hotel room. They've got a huge build out of bleachers back there, just to the, I guess, be to the south and to the east of the sphere. So the track must, snake back around and over there.
Have you seen the track yet?
I haven't looked at the whole layout.
It's cool.
And but as we were leaving, I just hadn't seen it.
Yeah.
But the entire parking garage and paddock is like walking up to a NASCAR race times 10, and they've built all this in the last 6 to 8 months. And it's that is a permanent
The paddock
structure.
is permanent.
Yeah. And that area it looks like a European F1 paddock and stuff. And it's just popped up.
Yeah.
And there it is. And that was just to see all that. It makes me. I'm gonna tune in and see what happens.
When I was a kid in Detroit, they came up with this
There you
thing
go.
called the Detroit Grand Prix
There you go.
because the streets were deteriorating so much. It's like, let's build it up. Let's build the Renaissance Center, which was owned by somebody else, but now it's the city, it was the city. Now it is the General Motors headquarters. But they built all these streets and ran the Grand Prix down there, and it was insane because unlike Vegas, where it's pretty flat, it's a little hilly terrain. And I remember the one place in the road where you'd get the seating, and as the cars would come across it just flying, they would all leave the ground as they would come over this one section. So it was quite the.
Did you ever? This is off air now. We're not on the air anymore.
Okay.
Did you ever get air over that? Oh, you were down in
I
Texas
wasn't
by
driving.
the time you were driving. Okay.
I wasn't.
Otherwise,
I wasn't driving there, but to do that in that normally 35 mile an hour zone, you'd have to be doing like 90. So yeah, that's.
I bet people have done it.
Probably
866.
Probably in an Uber they rented.
4150. Let's talk to Bill in Maryland. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Bill, what can we do for you?
Hi guys, love your show. Really
Thanks.
appreciate your candid help. So I'm kind of confused about what the manual says. I have a 2012 four-cylinder LX Honda Accord, and for example, we had a 2008 same car with this is a newer version of it, and we got 230-something thousand miles still going strong. We traded it in. And they talk about like a transmission changed every 30,000 miles, and we maybe did it 2 or 3 times at most with that car. And so I'm just trying to figure out, what do you guys generally recommend under normal conditions, normal driving, not a lot of dust or dirt or anything, for the various oils and the filters and lubrication and things, the transmission, radiator, differential oil changes, and whether to just replace the fluids or to do a flush or not.
Well, on certain cars like this one, they're not going to recommend a flush right from the factory. You can damage things inside the transmission. It's a drain and fill, and they take much less fluid, but it's a little more expensive fluid, but not nearly as expensive as some of the products like the Dodge, which is like $40 or whatever a quart. It's insane. So you can do it more often, but I think the 30,000 miles, in our opinion, is too often. That's just spending money that you don't need to spend. But 100,000 miles is way too much. We like to see our customers, because we look at the condition of the fluid when we're checking them during oil changes, and we think that for the average person who drives city and town, maybe 30,000 miles a year, that maybe 60 to 75,000 miles seems to be a pretty good time to drain and fill on that trans. The cooling systems, like every 100,000 miles, which is your radiator. The power steering, we just address it as it starts to age and get dirty. We've had some cars and customers with 200,000 miles, and they're still clear and brand new or red, depending on the color. So I don't suggest changing that. Protect the environment by not changing fluids too much, but also protect your car by changing them enough to protect it.
Is there any test I can do with my transmission fluid like I can with my engine oil, where I can send it off?
Visual, just the visual check. If you look at it and it's clearly changed from a nice bright red or a light tan clearish color, which some of them are like a gold, if it's turned to a burnt smelling dark color, it's time to change it.
To answer your question though, Chris, like in the heavy truck world, they do have analysis of both transmission fluid and engine oil that fleets use to find out if you're getting any metals built up or what the pH level is, or those sort of things, because the fluids, like Russ said, have gotten so expensive.
Yeah.
And like in the West Coast, there's plenty of states that have laws about overchanging your fluids.
Even engine oil.
Yeah, and so they don't, from the environmental side of things.
And they're harming your car by doing that.
I would always recommend that you look online at the factory's recommendation that they put in print on the internet. They don't often put it in the owner's manual anymore.
Don't exceed that. You can go less.
Yeah, and they use that as a guideline because it's not 30,000 miles on that car. Somebody's giving you
that's too much.
An aggressive recommendation.
866-594-4150. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show.
Make a radio appointment each week to hear the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show.
866-594-4150. Now, we're going to come back to Bill in just a second. Let's give away a hoodie. If you subscribe to our YouTube channel and join the Hoodie Fan Club at underthehoodshow.com, you could win a hoodie.
Like Ken Collins, congratulations from our friends over at universaltechnicalinstitute.com. UTI.edu is the place where you can go to get training on all things automotive, including some extra things which are related to the field, like welding, and then marine mechanics, which is also mechanical, even airplane mechanics. They've got so much stuff available there, and as you progress, you could even go as far as NASCAR Technical Institute.
Absolutely.
And learn about everything that goes into building a race car. So
and in a
check
few
them out.
years, they'll probably have an F1. I'm just kidding. I don't think F1 will let them.
You know, that's where mechanics come from. You start, you walk into UTI.
Yeah, good point.
And you graduate, you move up, you learn about some NASCAR building. They may not even want you to do NASCAR. If you're going to F1, you may just be top of your class in automotive, and you may get steered towards learning how to do it the right way. They pick the best and the brightest for those fields.
Let's go back to Bill in Maryland. Bill, did you have any follow-ups on your question there? Sorry, we had to cut you off for that break.
Oh, no problem. I was just wondering for the differential for the fluid there, how often to do that, and then just for oil, if you have a synthetic oil, what do you recommend?
Well, if your Accord 2012 LX is that's just a front-wheel drive Accord, that is all serviced internally with the transmission. It doesn't have a separate differential.
While some cars
do, and that's a trouble
many,
spot that people don't always remember. How many PTUs and differentials do you see fail because they never get serviced because they're a separate small reservoir?
We see somebody changing their transmission fluid. They pull the plug out. They think they're pulling the transmission fluid out. They drain it, and then they come in and it's burnt up because they didn't put any fluid in the right area. They pulled both plugs out because one's a little lower, and they think, I better pull both of these out. And then they're empty. That used to happen with some older Mitsubishis.
Geo prisms.
There you go.
We used to have that problem. We'd sell people the transmissions, and they would not lubricate both chambers.
No, and of course, we drain both of them. We can't ship them that way, so we drain all our products.
Toyota Corolla and Geo Prism back in whatever year that was.
So if you have a car with a differential, typically they'll get up to 100,000 miles without any problem, and further. It's normal. For us, if we're looking at a rear end on a all-wheel drive type vehicle, let's say a Chevy Traverse.
I just had you guys look at one for a Ford Edge for our pastor's daughter.
Yep. And if the fluid is clean and it's got 140,000 miles and dry, we're not going to change it.
Okay.
There's no reason to waste the money on that or dump it into the environment if it's clean and dry, because it's not, other than a few metal particles in there, it's not generating any carbon getting by piston rings.
Now, I just want to throw in here, and Russ, if I'm not hitting this right, stop me, but we sell a bunch of PTUs for Ford Edges and Ford Flexes because they've got it mounted right near a heat source.
With no drain plug.
And it burns up the fluid inside.
You know what our partner Dorman Products has just come out with?
One that has a drain plug.
A brand new PTU. They have two of them now. They have the old one, which is the Ford OE design, and then they have the new one, which has a heat shield and a drain plug, and it's actually less money, but they fixed that problem. Yep. They put a drain plug in it and a fill plug and a heat shield to fix those. And we put in a PTU in the Lincoln MKZ.
Yep.
2 days ago.
We're talking about a power transfer unit, which is basically a transfer case for these all-wheel drive Fords that they have.
Because it had gone so long, the fluid had got bad, the heat had got in there, and it ruined the seal, and it leaked. Now, if it would have had a plug in there, it would have answered your question, Bill. We could have drained that fluid and changed it probably at about 50,000 miles.
And that one, I would recommend it because of the heat.
Oh, yeah. And that would have saved that unit.
And they're not cheap to switch.
No.
You got to drop the cradle, don't you? Or
Part of it.
Now, oil changes is a whole, I'm going to say it's kind of an easy question, but it's also a tough question because I want our listeners to know that I want you guys to answer this question for Bill and this Accord, which is not always the same answer for vehicles that are, you know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
This is, okay. So this is because there's so many different things that people hear and it does change, what should Bill do with this Accord as far as oil changes? That was the next question there, right, Bill?
Which
Yes.
engine is in the Accord? Is it a 4 or a 6?
Four-cylinder.
It is a 4-cylinder. That is going to make a big difference on what we recommend as opposed to the 6. The 4-cylinder, if you're in that 4,000 mile range, we don't see a lot of problems with these engines. We have these engines in other vehicles that Honda makes, and we see very little failure due to oil system problems when they're changed in that 4,000 mile range.
Is that one has a gear and a chain, right?
Yes.
I think so.
When you get into a V6, we see more oil system failures in these, typically on the back bank of the engine towards the windshield, and we like to see those changed at about 3 months, 3,000 miles, because the failures we see are oil system related, stuck piston rings and things like that. We're not seeing as many of the stuck ring issues with the 4-cylinders, and a lot of it has to do with today's oils. They keep changing. They're going to continue to change. We don't see any reason why they wouldn't. It's all environmental government regulation stuff, and it's causing some issues because of the way the engines are currently designed. As they change them in the future, this should get fixed. They've had to continue to upgrade engines and improve emission systems to fix these issues as they keep getting thrown new things as we go.
But for Bill, say $4,000, or
I think he's pretty safe. at
highway
4.
driving every day, go to 5. If you're driving 40 miles one way to work every day.
If you're driving 40 miles one way each way, yeah, that seems to work for you on your Honda, which is basically the same engine. So yes, I think he'd be fine if he drove that many miles. But if you're a 10 mile a day total person, no, earlier.
Does that help you out there, Bill?
It does for sure. And one quick thing: how about what's a fuel filter, and when does that need to be replaced?
No fuel filter on this vehicle. It should have an in-tank fuel filter as part of the pump assembly.
And fingers crossed, you'll never have to replace it because the fuels
Fuels are pretty clean.
Going. Yeah,
They filter it as they're putting it into the tank underground. That it's going in pretty clean, and then there's a filter on all the pumps that's down to a very small micron. It's very rare you're going to get a lot of dirt in your fuel. We used to change on cars that needed fuel filters changed because they had one. We would replace those every few years.
Well, and it was mainly just like a lot of things, just because they were under the car and you wanted to be able to get them unscrewed.
Yep. And now, if we have some reason that let's say we're replacing fuel lines and brake lines on a Silverado that has a fuel filter, like an 04 or 5, if that filter had been changed within the last 7 or 8 years, it's usually pretty clean when we cut it off through the rust and dump it out. Go, oh, look, it's pretty clean. But if we go back 10 years ago and we were changing them on a regular basis, the fuels seem to be a lot dirtier. We'd dump those things out in a few years and they'd be black carbon coming out of them.
Bill, thanks very much for the call. We got a lot of scope on that call,
Yes,
too.
we
That
did.
wasn't just Bill-centric. I like that. Let's talk to Grant in Iowa. Grant, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Morning, gentlemen. I got an 08 Town and Country Chrysler minivan. The traction control system is acting up on it. We'll be going down starting to go down the highway, and it just starts engaging, and it will keep trying to engage until it finally just shuts itself off. I've tried shutting it off with the off button, and it refuses to respond. Is there any way that I can crawl underneath there and unhook it somehow, unplug it?
Yeah.
We're both puzzled as to why this is happening.
Well,
I mean-
first I had a pretty good idea what it could be. But when he said that, guys, I can't turn it off when I hit the button, that's a whole different thing. So if you have a wheel speed sensor, just one, that has a cracked magnet on it, which is super common on the cars now of this era and newer, they put a little ceramic magnet in the wheel bearing, and then they have the pickup sensor outside of that. And as they spin, the little pieces flake off. So if you get a tiny little, few thousandth wide piece flaked off, the computer thinks, hey, we're making an ABS stop. The wheel's not spinning. It's erratic. So it'll kick that thing on and off. Crazy. But you can always hit the button and turn it off. I'm thinking more along the lines as the ABS hydraulic control unit has failed in it. And we've put a few of those on. So here's what you can do.
He could pull the fuse for that unit.
And that is only because this vehicle is more dangerous to drive in the condition it is now than by disabling that safety system. Because you never want to disable it just because the light's on or you don't like it. But if you've got one that is making it dangerous to drive, you are safer without an analog brake system and traction control system, because it reverts back to any other vehicle sold that year that didn't come equipped with it, and then get it fixed as soon as possible. Find out what's wrong with it.
So the ABS fuse essentially is what I'm looking for, right?
Yes.
Right. And this is a system that is reasonably affordable to fix. They should be able to scan it right now. Before you pull that fuse out, you should be able to go to a shop. They should be able to scan it and give you an estimate of what it should take to fix. Hopefully it's going to come up and it's going to give them codes that will point directly to a failure in that hydraulic control unit. You don't want to go with the first price, which may be a brand new one, because it could be $3,500 for the unit installed, because new units are super expensive. But yet a good certified recycled part from car-part.com is probably going to run you, I don't know, somewhere in the range of $125 to $225 seems reasonable. Is from other ones
maybe even $75 to $225, because if there's a lot of them out there, the price is going to be affordable.
So that's much more affordable than several thousand for the brand new one, which is probably going to have a 12-month, 12,000-mile warranty, and the used ones are typically around 12, 6 to 12. And they don't fail that often, so I would definitely go that route.
Grant, thanks very much for the call. I like to use my traction control in the winter, and like on the Prius, and I pretend that I'm drifting. So if it's slippery out and I can take a corner, an empty corner, if I can get the traction control lit and stay in control and leave it on, I feel like
an F1 driver.
I feel like Ken Block out there with my Prius. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you. 866-594-4150. You're listening to the Under the Hood Show.
Hey, I got a 2013 Chevy Tahoe, and something's draining my battery. Well, I think it's draining the battery. I haven't checked the battery yet, but I can trickle charge the battery, for a day, and then, leave the vehicle sit for a day, and the battery's dead. I roll down the window, there's no lights on inside, or radio's not on, nothing like that. I didn't know if they were common. There's a place to look first.
Well,
yeah, that's the first place to look, right?
But, the first place is see if anything's on, and then
he should check. Don't pass go. Check the battery.
Yeah, the battery.
Have the battery checked first, because that is a very common failure place on that. But on those vehicles themselves, we've had the biggest problem we've had with them. If it's not related to some aftermarket accessory that's been put on, we had someone that came in the other day. It turned out their battery was dead because they had a remote start that had failed.
And they didn't know about it.
They didn't even know the remote start was in the vehicle. It was an old one. And producer Doug had a Prius that was driving us nuts. The battery kept going dead. We kept checking. There was no drain. And then all of a sudden, boom, it would start draining. And that's the way this other car was doing too.
I've had 2 vehicles that happened to.
And it was an old, cheap remote start, not a good one like our friends sell at Audio Playground.
Mm-hmm.
But it just failed. They didn't have a remote or anything, didn't know what was going on. We take them out and they work. So if you've got something like that, check into that. But body control modules, they can fail on these. In fact, I've got one I'm going to program a body control module on today when I get back to the shop that is having, some other issues.
And with this one, it could be, he's got to figure, it could be anything, couldn't it? Couldn't it be the rear wiper trying to kick on?
You've seen rear wiper, you'll see something where you got a CD stuck in the mechanism and it's shut down and it's trying to eject, and it just crazy things like that over the years. And, okay, now I'm going to tell my own story here and little dirty laundry here, but Russ, I've been gonna ask you about this in person. I'll just do it on the air.
Yeah, do it.
Our Camry,
Personally, I do.
Yeah, our '09 Camry, we've driven it from 30,000 miles now to over 100,000 miles with the kids and us. But it is, it's been having battery issues, and I feel kind of bad because I just took a battery back down to our friends at Sturtevant's for a warranty, and then I realized after I put it in, I'm going to check this a little bit further because this doesn't seem right. I looked at my schedule and how the battery changes on it. This isn't right, and so I bought a meter with an inductive clamp on it, and I put it over the cable. Does that work okay versus splitting the signal and putting it in line?
They work better when you hook it directly in line.
Okay.
If it picks it up on that inductive clamp on the low range, then it's really bad. And those inductive clamps are great I find them great for heavier loads.
Fuse panels in houses.
Oh, yeah, they work great for that. Alternating current.
But I was trying to be lazy, so I bought a pretty good scanner or a pretty good meter with the inductive clamp on it. Now I can open the door and watch it change from 0.5 volts to 1.7 volts when the amps, when the door opens and the lights come on.
If it's a half amp, if that's an accurate reading, that's too much.
Oh, I know it is because it should be like 0.125.
Yeah, or less. I mean, I'm thinking that so you could test that meter. You take it off, hit the 0 button, and then clamp it on small loads that you know are small loads, and see what kind of reading you get. See if it's something you might expect, and then you might be able to test it. But yeah, that's telling me you've got something.
So I had that on there, and then I just started. The under the hood fuse blocks contained a lot of stuff, so I started pulling every fuse. Didn't change a thing by pulling any fuse. And so now I got to figure out the under the dash one's a little more tricky to get at, and then be able to get to the meter at the same time.
Have you had the battery deep checked?
I got a new one in there now.
Okay, so no,
so I don't want to have another battery problem. Right. So this has been my little parasitic drain. They're a pain in the butt.
Could be an alternator too. Alternator.
I unplugged and I took the plug-in off and the power wire off the alternator. Never changed a thing.
It's usually the big power wire that does that.
I made the alternator was completely unhooked from the car and it didn't change a thing.
Now for Corey,
yes,
Shannon, what should Corey be doing?
Russ already told him.
Okay, yeah. Does that help you out there, Corey?
Check the battery first.
Does that help you out there?
No, and I'll do that. I didn't know that my next that the battery was good. If I should just start pulling, like you said, the fuses like on your wipers or, to see if something's draining.
Well, the reason I brought that up the way I did it, I was being lazy. I didn't have my meter I had at home. I killed it doing something stupid. And so I needed a new one anyway. So I jumped on and I found myself a ideal like $100 inductive clamp meter. I'll use it for a lot of stuff. But I just didn't know how good that clamp would work and how accurate it would be. So I was kind of impressed that it actually was picking it up. But that way I didn't have to figure out how to inline put in I just didn't want I was being lazy.
Corey, thanks very much for the call. 866-594-4150. What has caught your eyes in the automotive industry? What are you guys doing at the shop that has been taking your time these last few weeks?
Tons of engines. We're engines and transmissions. We do so many of those now because a lot of cars that, we normally do a lot of them, but a lot of cars that weren't worth putting an engine or transmission in because seemed like it was more than the car. Well, now that the cars are worth literally double their value of what they were just a few years ago, fixing your own car makes more sense. If you've got a car that you'd have to go buy. You've got a car that if you went to buy it running well costs $10,000. Now you own that same car. It's going to cost you $6,000 to fix it. So if you fix it and sell it, you're going to make $4,000. So why wouldn't you spend the $6,000 to fix the vehicle you have?
Right.
And here's the thing: when somebody calls and they ask me, they'll ask me, "Okay, Russ, how much to fix this?" And I say, "Okay, it's going to cost $6,000." They go, "Oh my gosh, I only paid $4,800 for this 2 years ago. I wouldn't spend that kind of money." I said, That's fair. I said, when was the last time you looked to find out what it would cost to replace your car with exactly the same thing? Yeah. Well, I haven't done that. I didn't need to buy a car. I said, go out, take a look, see what these are selling for today with your mileage, same color, no rust, whatever. And then they call me back and they're like, "Oh, I had no idea. Why are they so expensive?" because they're all expensive. All the used cars have gone up. First, there was a shortage of new cars, and now new cars have gone up. And now all the new cars are going to go up again after all these strikes. They're not going to lose money to the stockholders, so they're raising the prices again on all the domestic cars that were subject to the strike. And when they go up, the other people aren't just going to go, well, we're just going to have cheaper cars. Look at us. No, they're going to move up too. So that'll make the used cars even more. It's this cycle of life we've had.
When's
forever.
the cycle turn our way?
I don't know.
It doesn't. It goes up, and then as we've seen before, I've been through like 3 of them in my lifetime where I see them. It started in the 80s, and you'll see them. The prices go up crazy high with inflation, and then we go, well, what are we going to do? We're not making enough. Well, then the inflation kind of levels off, and the high prices stay right where they're at, but wages gradually
Fuel surcharge.
Yeah, gradually go up, and then everything kind of meets itself. And when it seems to be about level, here comes 2008, and through the roof we go again, and then everything kind of catches up slowly. It's not that the prices ever come down; they just stop going up for a while.
I have had
and then up.
I've had 2 cases within the last month where I look smart, even though I'm not. Somebody has said to me, either at work or in life, where they say, "Hey, ask the guys. I have this car and I have to get it fixed. Should I just sell it and get a different?" And I've said to both of them, before you do anything, go shop for a car.
Yeah.
Go shop for a car and shop for the one you have. Because if you can go shop for the exact car you have fixed, you'll know what your car is sort of worth. It's not going to be exact, but it'll tell you that, because they're thinking exact same thing. They have a $10,000 car that needs a $4,500 fix. So they're thinking, well, the car's only worth $10,000. And then they go look online to see how much their car is. And it's not. It's $18,000 or $20,000. They're like, oh, yeah, I should just get it fixed. Yeah. And then they think I'm super smart. And I go, well, yeah, I am.
You are super smart.
That's just what I say. Yeah. I just always say, yeah.
Just own it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're darn right I am. Yeah. That it is interesting now to look at that and see it's still, the shortage isn't there. Right? I mean, we go past
there's
lots and there's cars on them where there sometimes wasn't.
Yeah, that's true. It's there's not a drastic shortage, but there's less available than there was, and there's other reasons for that too. After cash for clunkers, a lot of stuff was taken off the road, and things have changed.
Mm-hmm.
I will say though, in the last 6 to 8 months, prices have leveled or came back.
Yeah.
I mean, some of those super crazy pickup prices are not there anymore. And
the extra price you had to pay at the dealership to buy, they're like, oh, here's a brand new one, but it's scarce, so they charge you an extra $8,000. Some of those have gone away, and there's actually been a few incentives, but great, I can buy this truck with incentives and everything, and it's only $90,000. It's such a bargain. No.
Yeah, I heard some estimates that strike, they were saying estimates. I mean, I hope I'm remembering this right, but $500 to $1,000 a vehicle. Potentially, it could be raise the price of vehicles
just
with the changes in the agreement.
That'll do it for this hour of the Under the Hood Show. The Under the Hood Show is brought to you by Sturdivant's. Hour 2 is coming up, 866-594-4150.
You're listening to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show with the Motor Medics, Shannon Nordstrom and Russ the Super Tech Evans. Shannon is an ASE engine and parts specialist, and Russ is an ASE Master Certified Technician with extensive factory drivability training. Join the Motor Medics for fun and free automotive advice with real-world solutions to everyday automotive problems. The Under the Hood Show is heard weekly on this and other great radio stations across the U.S. Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com.
With Russ Evans, this is Shannon Nordstrom, thanking you for tuning in to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show. Have a great day, and remember, PTLA.
The opinions heard on this program, based on the many years of experience of Russ and Shannon, are offered for entertainment value only and as a guide to your repair needs. No claim to repair or cause is given or implied. Always consult with your own certified technician and follow all safety procedures before attempting any repair. To be a part of the show, call 866-594-4150. Under the Hood is produced by Prairie House Productions. All content is the property of Nordstrom's Automotive Incorporated and may not be used without our permission. Copyright Nordstrom's Automotive, Inc. Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstrom's Motor Medics.
Welcome to the Under the Hood Show. We are glad to have you with us. Russ Evans is here to answer your automotive questions.
Thanks for joining us under the hood.
Shannon Nordstrom is here to do the same.
Welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
I'm Chris Carter here to answer your calls at 866-594-4150. 866-594-4150. Let's go right to the phones because Bear's been waiting a little bit to talk to us. Bear, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
I've got a Subaru Ascent 2022, and I've got a mystery battery issue that came up. The car was driven basically every day, and then one day I take it to the doctor's office, I park it, and I come back out, and it mysteriously is completely dead. Have you guys heard anything on that on newer Subarus?
That's super fun.
Yeah, never.
Yeah.
I've not had a single Subaru. We don't get Subarus with battery drains. I don't think I've ever had a Subaru with a battery drain.
Oh, don't say ever.
In the shop.
Yeah, well, I went ahead.
He's going to get one next week.
Not yet.
Charged it up, and they tested it, and it showed a bad cell, which a bad cell can happen, right?
Yeah, even a brand new one.
And then I take it to the dealer, and all the tests that they run were perfectly positive on the battery. And I don't know how, from the AAA guy, I've done a lot of work with charging systems on boats and yachts and everything else, and I've never seen anything like this, where all of a sudden, you have a catastrophic, and then all of a sudden you go to test it, and you've got complete fail, and then you get a positive on the other end, and then the car is fine. How does that? I'm just lost.
So you're saying they tested the battery at two different places, and one was bad and one was good?
Yes.
Okay. So the AAA guy tested it and said it was bad.
Right. It said it showed up as a bad cell.
Okay. And then so here's what the AAA guy is using. He's using a little meter. He hooks it up to the car.
Right.
The battery's dead.
No. Yeah.
And it's going to show it's okay. It's failed. It'll say battery failed or battery good. I've seen their tester. That's all it says.
And we know that,
and the cranking
because
is.
the car wouldn't start. So we know that's the...
Now, if the AAA guy would have put it on a charger and fully charged that battery and retested it, it may have passed. So if it was started and run and taken to the dealer and then they checked it, it may have showed up as fine. But now with a Subaru, if you pull the keys out and walk away, it's got a battery protection device in it. It will shut down the power to the car if you leave the lights on, if you leave the dome light on or something. It will kick that off. So for it to be completely dead, that's rare. And like I said, I have not seen a Subaru with this.
What I'm saying is that the tester that he used was connected to an iPad, and it showed bad cell on the battery.
Yeah, I
being how the car had just gotten charged back up at that point, it could be suspect.
Yeah,
like I said, you've been worked with charging systems, so I don't want to. You probably know more than I do. But
well, was it tested before the battery was recharged or after?
Yeah, no, it was started and tested, and it showed a bad cell.
Okay, yeah, because once a battery's fully recharged, the first step in testing the batteries, they want a full charge on it, so it could come up with a different reading for sure between fully charged and not.
All right, so let's go to the different question. He drives the car one place, it works
goes
fine.
dead.
It goes dead. He recharges it, and it works fine. Why does that? What is there?
Something in that car is because the vehicle has the ability to kill the power drains.
Basically, a shutdown relay.
It's a battery-saving device. Something is wrong in the car. This car is still under warranty, correct?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, the lucky thing for you is this is one of those things. Battery drains can be a huge problem for people. And if you've got a car that's under warranty, lemon laws are pretty specific on certain things. So let's say you have a check engine light on. You bring it into the dealer, and they say, it's for a PO 420, and they repair it. You bring it back again, and it's for a different code. You bring it back again, a different code, and you do that 100 times, and it's a different code each time. That doesn't apply because It's different things each time, even though it's a check engine light. But if the battery goes dead by itself and you have repeat returns to find out why this thing just randomly goes dead on a car that's made to protect itself from a dead battery, it's the same problem over and over. So the dealership is going to work with the manufacturer and work very hard to make sure that your car under warranty is fixed.
Has it happened again since that one time?
No, it just happened, and the car is still sitting at the dealer. I haven't picked it up yet.
Hopefully,
the other thing is they were saying that the rear gates on these things on one other model had an issue where the rear gates were I think like a logic thing where it doesn't sense that it's closed. So it may be the actuator back there is continually going. I don't know, but the only thing I could see that would be anywhere near an issue might be that rear gate part.
How long were you away from the car before it started? How long were you away from the car from the time you parked it to the time you found out it was dead?
It was a doctor's office visit where they did an X-ray, so an hour and a half.
Okay, that's a fast current drain. It's got to have a big load to do it, and that sounds more to me like the battery. So let's start with the battery. They put that in there. Watch it. If it doesn't go dead again, you're fine. But also make sure you keep on top of if there's an actuator, a recall, or something they want to do as a service bulletin because it's under warranty, make sure they get that done well. But as far as for documentation, I would make sure that if this car goes dead again, instead of calling the tow truck first, call your local dealership and say, my car is dead. What do you want me to do? So they are doing it. Because what will happen with me, I'll have a customer that says, hey, my car went dead 3 different times. I had it jump started and I drove it in today. Check it out. And I said, well, I'm not seeing it dead. What do I do? But if they would have called me and said, my car is dead right now, what do you want me to do? You know, what do you think I should do? How do you proceed? It's like, let's do this. Don't charge it up. Don't jump it. Don't, put it into gear manually by pushing the lever down. Don't hook a jump pack to it. I want to see it now in this condition and find out what's going on with it. I want to put an amp meter in it while I hook power. Things I can do to maybe find out what's wrong with it quicker. But if they just jump it, so many times they jump them and then they say, well, it's been running fine for 2 weeks. It's hard to find.
An hour and a half to drain that battery, it has to be...
It's got to be like a 15, 20 amp load.
Yeah, there's something. So
headlights,
you'd think if that actuator was you would have had a door ajar symbol or something, you would think.
Some of those don't. Some of the Suburbans had that issue, Shannon, and they would keep trying to lock, and they would never say door ajar on it.
That's a big drain. That's not when I first got the call, I thought this happened over a longer period of time, but an hour and a half, that's a big drain.
Thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show.
Get your planner out right now and schedule your next radio appointment with the Motor Medics.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here on the Under the Hood Show. Let's talk to Brian. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Brian, what can we do for you?
Hello, I have an 03 Dodge 3/4-ton pickup. It has a V10 gas motor. I notice it more when I'm hauling a trailer. You put the gas down probably halfway, and it'll just go to the floor. The gas pedal will go to the floor by itself. It felt like when you hit the resume on the cruise and it takes off. So I unhooked the cruise cable on there and it seemed to go away. I put an engine in this probably 10,000 miles ago. I had another vehicle, so I took the cruise servo off of there, put it on this one, thought that might cure it. It did not. It still does the same thing.
So when you say it's going down its own, it's like the throttle's being pulled down, like you're imagining.
It is the cruise doing it, right? You disconnected it and it quit?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Russ, because that's what I was trying to get at. So
it just you can feel it just slowly go down to the floor, and if you don't do anything, it'll just keep going. I've tried to push the cruise cancel buttons, and it does it with the cruise on off. So
is this a diesel?
No, V10 gas.
Oh, V10. Yeah, I did say V10.
Yep.
Why did I get diesel out of that? Well, that must be fun. Zoom.
Yeah.
Well, if that
So
thing's
it's a little nerve-wracking the first few times.
that cruise, we have literally no failures with cruise systems in those vehicles at all. I'm trying to think of even what I've seen. I think that's all controlled through the engine computer. The whole cruise, if I remember.
Yeah, but if it's got a separate servo, that must be an older system on that V10.
Well, yeah, they still ran the cable because it's a throttle cable on it. Not electric throttles. Why?
Yeah.
But the way those ran, I'm pretty sure those run through that frontal control module. When they start doing some diagnosis on it, if they tell you that the front control module is bad, it would not surprise me because they fail often and a lot of things run through that. And I just don't know because we haven't had to fix one if they run through there. So typically they run them one of two ways. They either have all your electronics right in the servo, and then your wires come inside to your switch and your brake pedal and your ignition, and boom, that's it. That's how it runs. Or they have the engine computer send a signal out to the servo to tell it how far to open and close. And all your switches go into the engine computer. Looking at a wiring diagram would tell you that. If you look at a wiring diagram for the engine computer and you see cruise, resume, set, accelerate, on, off, it's in the computer. If you look at the wiring diagram and you see cruise, resume, accelerate going into the front control module, it's probably the front control module that's failed. Because what happens is...
Okay, so one of those...
Yeah, it's one of those two modules. Because if you shut the cruise off, that should kill it and cancel it. That thing has brake switch, so if you hit the brake, it doesn't shut off either, right?
No, I hit the cruise cancel button, nothing. Hit the brakes, nothing. You just have to shut the key off and
back on.
Start all over again.
Yeah, so within a cruise system, it has several fail safes. One of them is a load, which is throttle. If you were to floor it, it should shut it off. If you hit the brake, it should shut it off. Key should shut it off. Turning the switch should shut it off, or holding the set button should shut it off. And then there's other things too, engine failures, gear position and things like that. If it went to neutral, it should shut it down. If it's not shutting it down, that module is telling it to stay on. And if you've already swapped to a different under hood unit, we know that it's not that. So I'm leaning more towards, I'll bet there's wiring in that front control module that runs that. I bet that's where it's coming from because we have replaced a fair amount of those.
Or there's a harness that runs somewhere over there that has gotten corroded, and there's a crossed wire in there or something.
Yeah.
You might look at the harnesses that are over in that area. Sometimes you get an older vehicle, you can get leakage from a washer bottle, you can get crazy things, from a battery. And so if you see any sort of traces or trails along the wiring harnesses, look at that too.
Okay.
Rodents.
Brian, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. That does not sound like a fun one.
No. When he first started talking about it, I thought he was describing something completely different. Russ was like right on that.
Chris, you're speaking of rodents. You've had the issue with your van at your radio station.
Mm-hmm.
Same wire, cut in the same place, like 3 times in a row. And finally, the third time they stopped, luckily. But it's hard when you have to bill a customer a second or a third time for exactly the same thing because it's not a warranty repair when it's snipped right off. Yesterday, I was working on a Lincoln MKZ, and the brake actuator for the parking brakes was cut in half. So I was thinking here to myself, how did that get cut in half? And my first thought was that maybe somebody had done this and cut this wire in half, because here's what it looked like, although our listeners can't see it. It's cut in half.
Yeah, it's cut in half.
There you go. See, I put it on right there. Hey, maybe they can see that on YouTube. But so it's snipped, and it looked like somebody. And then I thought, you can't get to that area easily. If somebody was trying to vandalize it, they would have used some wire cutters and cut it.
Right.
So because you got to take the tire off to get to it. So I fixed the thing, and as I'm standing there, I'd look around behind me, and I've got a can of NHOU mouse out for rodent spray. Yeah. And I had used it on my camper when I parked her for the winter. I sprayed it on the legs and on the bottom by the tires to keep the mice out. And I thought, this is the second time this thing happens. So after I got done with the wire repair, I sprayed the wire with mouse out. That would have been great for your van too.
Sure would have. Yeah,
I was just thinking in the,
that was a nightmare
when you're talking about rodents and stuff under the hood. But we have found in this, like this Dodge, we have found cars with wires chewed up by the firewall where injectors were running when they shouldn't and flooding engines and engines dying and throttles not working and setting codes all because of this. So, if you find that you've got a wire bad like that, it might not hurt to put some mouse out on there.
866-594-4150. Let's go to Colorado and talk to Robert. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Robert, what can we do for you?
Hi. Good morning, gentlemen. So I have a Kia Optima with about 265,000 miles on it, and everything works great. The car runs fantastic, and I use it for deliveries. And I put a lot of miles every day in it, and lately we're getting kind of colder weather here up. And I noticed when I pre-start my car, she's having a little bit of knock-in and stick-in for the first 5-10 minutes while warming up. So I'm changing engine oil and the filter pretty religiously, around 3,000 to 4,000 miles, depending how it goes in the week. But there were some weeks that I pushed it to 5,000, and when I checked the owner's manual, it doesn't really say how to change the oil depending on if I'm using full synthetic or normal. So with full synthetic, I usually add a quart of Lucas oil additive, and before oil change, I also use the intake cleaner. So what I noticed that the engine oil gets dirtier after 3,000 miles if I'm pushing it to 5,000. So I was thinking maybe I'm pushing it too far between oil changes. So I did a liquid moly engine flush. And after the flush, I used just a throwaway oil to clean out the engine after the flush, and it came out really, really clean. So my question was, will the engine not go away as the weather warms up? And if the engine oil gets really dirty after 3,000, should I stay what the manufacturer recommends and just do the oil change at 3,000 miles regardless of if I'm using full synthetic or not? And how often should I use the GDI cleaner for the engine, I guess?
A lot of questions there, and I just want to start off, and I think we should probably throw a celebration party.
No kidding.
That you've got a Kia Optima with 265,000 miles on it. What year is it?
It's an 09, so this is still from Korea, the import one, not the one that they made here.
Yeah, so it's the earlier version. Because right away we've started thinking about some Kia Optima engine problems, and that's why I said we should have a celebration.
Right.
Well, that was a good one.
09, yeah.
I mean, one that we didn't see problems with. I was looking at that for a minute. I was thinking 19. I don't know why that was in my head. And I was like, oh, we know what's wrong with it.
Yeah.
But no, in 09, I would definitely go when the oil starts getting dirtier in that towards the end,
right.
And it's those engines. 3,000. I wouldn't go much further than that. Hopefully that noise will go away, or if it doesn't, hopefully it's not a detrimental thing to the engine. It just is going to make a little ticking.
Yeah, maybe it's something that's just a little more clearance at 265,000 miles, and it's not catastrophic,
right.
Type of thing.
But keep doing what you're doing, and then as far as the gas direct injected cleaning on that thing, I'd probably be doing. You're putting some miles on it, probably every 6 months. If you're putting that heavy of miles on it, delivering stuff, because that thing that's what happens is those trips, they start building up a lot of the on the backside of the.
But at least he's keeping temperature in the engine. That helps. A lot.
Yeah, that helps. That's a huge thing. But I would say with that many miles, I would go a year normally, but with that many miles, I would hit it at 6 months.
When you do your deliveries, do you leave the car running the entire time?
On and off, because I have auto start, so a lot of times I drop off the food, I turn off the car, I run upstairs to the 3rd or 4th floor. By the time I get down halfway, I remote start the car, so by the time I get to the door, she restarts. So I turn it off probably like 60 to 70 times a day. I turn it on and off. But none of those actually, once I start driving it, the knock-in is off.
Yeah.
Have you ever had to put a starter in it?
No, nothing other than an alternator. The car is as I actually got it.
Yeah, we should.
Don't do anything.
Let's have a celebration party. I mean,
don't ask any more questions.
Yeah,
don't look into anything. Just keep doing.
Make sure that you have somebody else though consult and listen to that noise to make sure it's not something that is more than just a clearance issue, because it's got 265,000 miles on it.
And I'm going to throw in something. If they're a car guy, doesn't matter. Make them do it blindfolded. Don't tell him it's a Kia, because he'll, right?
Yeah.
You guys, both right
I
away.
gotcha. Yep.
As soon as, and the comments on the chat, same thing. Thanks very much for the call. 866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you.
Prepare to learn something. You're going under the hood.
866-594-4150. Don't forget, if you subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can watch the show, you could win a hoodie. All you have to do is subscribe and then go join the Hoodie Fan Club at underthehoodshow.com.
Like Chris Barton, congratulations from all our friends over at Universal Technical Institute. You find them at uti.edu.
866-594-4150. Let's talk to Reese. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Reese, what can we do for you?
Hey, good morning, guys. Love your show. Try to listen as often as I can.
Thanks.
I caught just the tail end of you guys talking about the mouse stuff. I always bought those, they called them mouse cab repellent or something like that. They came in little pouches, and put them in the garage, put them in the shed. But we had it underneath the hood of a 2005 Pontiac Bonneville, and they had chewed that thing right into the bag and spilled it all over.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that it was a mouse that did it. I don't know. So this year, we're trying a mixture of cinnamon with cloves and red chili pepper.
I'm coming over.
Yeah,
sounds good.
And Denise, it smells really good. I just don't know if it works, but if it does, we'll definitely let you know. My brother-in-law actually tried it, and that's what they go by, I guess.
You got to be careful, because there are some predators that are attracted to that and will come to your car to nest in it, and some that are repelled by it. There's certain things work for different ones. That's why I use our partners over at NHOilUndercoating.com and their product Mouse Out. The Mouse Out actually has a scent of other predators that keeps rodents that are of the size that can get under your hood, mice, woodchucks, things like that, keeps them away. It also helps prevent the rust as well too. But
if you go in your garage where you have your car stored, especially, and then spray predator urine all over,
or just go pee in there,
and there'll be no
on your car.
Nobody will want to be in that garage.
No, including you. So just lock the door and stay out.
For the next week, you and the boys in the house just decide just to pee on the car.
Just towards the bottom.
After the rabbits in our neighborhood last year, I looked into the same things, these natural ways to get rid of things, and rabbits is one of them. And there were people mixing up 5-gallon buckets of dried chili peppers and other stuff, and you pour on your plants, and then the rabbits are. But I found some rabbits don't care. There's always the one that goes, I don't care. I had COVID last year. I can't smell or taste anything. So that's what it was.
Reese,
that's why they ate everything.
Be it. Hey, I put my net Christmas lights out, and every year half of them are chewed up. So what do I need to put on there, Russ, to stop it? Should I get some mouse out or rabbit out, or what do I put?
I think you and I came up with the answer. Reese, thanks very much for
I don't know if the mouse out will repel rabbits, because you don't typically have those eat your car, but we could ask them.
Yeah, if they got leap out
see what
or
it does.
something like
but
that.
We do use the product for deer repellent on our trees and the rabbit repellent that you spray on the bushes. The only problem is when the water hits it.
It's kind of gone. Or snow gets on it, wipes it away after it melts a little bit. So.
I just sit out there with a blowgun. Take them down. Yeah. Yep.
Oh, I've threatened heavier artillery, and I always get the dirty look like, don't do that.
2 pumps of the BB gun. It's still pretty silent when you shoot it.
Do you have a bug assault?
No, I don't.
I got a bug assault. I love it. It's a little air powered gun that you put salt in, and when the flies are on the table, you poof and you poof.
Didn't know such a thing existed.
That's why my wife has an eye patch. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Christian. You're on the Under the Hood show. Christian, what can we do for you? Christian, are you there? Oh, I didn't answer. I was too busy.
You're too busy laughing at your own joke.
Okay, Christian, now you're on. What can we do for you?
Oh, I was saying, you guys, the bug assault gun is amazing. By the way, I have one.
I want to like give mine more power. Yeah, like 10 CO2 cartridges and
I gotta look this up. I didn't know such a thing existed.
blew out my living room window. Yeah,
I just need to know now of Chris's comment if it comes with safety glasses or not. Right. For my wife.
Yeah,
you gotta fly on your forehead.
Best case scenario, there's salt in the eye. All right, Christian, go ahead. Come on, don't take us off topic, Christian.
That's fine. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I've got a 2002 Chevy S10 Blazer. It's a 4-door, 4-wheel drive with a V6. I just got it 6 months ago, low miles, turning into a hunting vehicle. So I'm doing a bunch of TLC. A couple months ago, I did the coolant system. So I pulled off the water pump. I did everything that I know is right on that. I scraped off the old gasket from the engine surfaces. I cleaned out the ports and everything, made sure everything was dry. I wiped everything down with brake cleaner. And then I used, on the gaskets, there's 2 small gaskets for this water pump. I used some Permatex of, I think it's the radiator type stuff. It's a gasket maker, but it says in the instructions that you can use it as a gasket liner. So I lined the gasket on both sides, put everything together. I did the correct, let it dry overnight, and then, before I added coolant and anything, well, I've got one of them gaskets is dripping on me. And I tried tightening, which I did torque the bolts correctly, but I tried giving a little more to the bolts. It's still dripping. I want to know from you guys, should I K-seal it, or should I pull the thing apart and redo? And what are your recommendations on all that?
That's a lot of work to take it all back apart. And if it's just got a tiny little seep like that,
don't just seal it,
K-seal it. I can almost guarantee it. The producer Doug in there's laughing at us. I can almost guarantee that is going to fix it. It's going to fix it permanently, like forever. You'll never see a leak there on that again. I'm just wondering if your surface of that block has maybe got a few little, something's just not quite right with it. You've got a good gasket in there, so it's a solid surface. K-Seal will seal that. What K-Seal won't seal is a pile of mushy cardboard. If you've got a head gasket that is turned to garbage, it's basically an 1/8-inch thick piece of cardboard goo.
We're using this as an example, not about your story.
K-Seal will get in there, and it'll seal that up. But then if you remove what the K-Seal is bonded to, you've dug a hole, and it's not what it was designed to do. But a head gasket that fails, it fatigues and blows out. That does an excellent job of sealing that. So,
Christian, I think what you did, and many people are guilty of this.
You might have touched it.
No, he over prepared it.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
you did way too much.
Maybe the sealer has sealed, but it's got a little bubble in there.
Yeah, he
or
overdid it, and now he's just paying for the fact that he overdid it. That's what happens to me all the time.
It's got a little bubble in there or something like that.
So if he would have just took it apart and not even paying attention and maybe put some tobacco on there or something and bolted it on, it'd work perfect. But
there we go.
It's amazing how many times that's happened to me. Actually, I look at people in my life and I'm like, they just don't care and everything's fine. And then, I think of Murphy's Law.
I do. I think you over-prepared it, and you set yourself up for this failure that you're calling us about now.
Huh. So what I'm worried about, I was hoping that this leak would maybe fix itself. You know how sometimes leaks will stand in, they'll collect something from in the system and then
calcium,
kind of plug that in. But I haven't seen that yet. And what I don't want is what happened with the old thermostat housing I pulled off, which was leaking for some time, and I replaced it because it was pitted. And I don't want that to happen, which I didn't see any pitting from the old water pump gasket at all. And obviously I did everything I could for it, and it's a brand new gasket, brand new pump. So I don't want to end up with a condition where it's going to cause a problem over time, because I bought this truck low miles and I intend to keep it for a while.
go get some K-Seal, and that'll fix it. And can you see it drip while it's running, like really slow drip while it's idling?
Yeah.
Okay, here's what you do, which will be really cool. You'll love this. So start the engine up, let it warm up. Pull the cap loose so it doesn't build up,
pressure.
A lot of pressure in there, and then start the engine up when it's cold, and with the cap off. Make sure you've got enough room to put your bottle of K-Seal in it, but wipe off that area on the front of the engine before you start it so it's dry. Pour the K-Seal in, put the cap on, make sure it's full, then start it up and get your phone camera out and take a video of it and watch it stop as it runs. It's really neat to watch that.
I've seen you do it.
On YouTube, they'd say, so satisfying. You watch it and it'll just stop. You'll go, hey, where'd the drip go? And then all of a sudden it'll just dry out from the heat of the engine. And it's gone. It works with a differential in pressures. When it sees that it's going from, 8-9 pounds inside the engine as it's warming up to the outside, it just stop and it seals. So it's going to be really cool.
Does that help you out there, Christian?
Okay. Yeah, and I'm concerned because almost every component. I think the only thing that's original on my coolant system right now is the engine block and the heater core, and I don't want to. Oh, I'm sorry. I've tried the old powders and all that. I know
don't
you
do
guys
that.
talk a lot about the K-Seal and all that. So I'm going to take your recommendation, but it's not going to cause any issues with longevity or anything in my brand new radiator or in my water pump or anything like later on, right?
No,
it's not overkill, right?
No, it doesn't. It's got a 100% money back guarantee. You can go right to the website and check it out at kseal.com. We've never had one clog anything up. Just make sure it's completely full of coolant. You put it in there. Some of those old the other sealers they use, they're not so good.
Christian, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show.
Be sure to visit our website for news, contests, and previous shows at underthehoodshow.com. Welcome back, everybody. It's time to get back under the hood with the Motor Medics.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us. Let's talk to Luther. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Luther, what can we do for you? We'll just wait till he gets up in the attic. Once he's up there, we'll go back to him.
Sounds good.
Yep. Yeah. Luther, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I've got a 2021 Chevy Blazer, and I think the suspension is either weak on it or it doesn't track quite right. When I'm going over bumps of the road at, say, 65, 70, it seems like it veers a little bit to the left. To the left. It bounces up, but it always seems to turn. Not turn, but I mean, it feels like it's maybe a little one-sided, or is there a possibility that one of the shocks or struts is weaker than the other four? Is that a possibility, or what could possibly be wrong when I experience, that kind of a feeling when I'm driving?
Are you plus or minus 100 miles an hour?
75 is tops, man.
Okay.
It's a 21. How many miles are on this now?
15,000. It's like a new car.
15,000 miles on a 21. It shouldn't do anything weird yet. It should drive.
I didn't think either.
I've driven a number of them. Yeah, I haven't had any weird suspension things with the ones I've driven. We've got several customers with them. They drive really nice, like a Traverse or an Acadia or something like that. They actually drive almost like they're on rails. They're a very, very tight suspension vehicle. If it's pulling to one side when you hit a bump, it sure sounds like that thing is out of alignment because it's too new to have a part worn out yet. I just can't see that.
Well, I just had it aligned last summer when I on my trip back home from Arizona. I thought I heard some cupping. Well, it really wasn't cupping, but the toe was set to one angle too much. So they adjusted the alignment. So that's not it. No, the alignment is fine. It drives fine, but it just seems like the suspension is unequal. That's the best description.
when did this problem start occurring? Before or after the alignment?
Well, I noticed right when it was new. When I drive on a good road, you don't feel much of anything. But, when you get to town, you see some of these bumpy roads. I noticed, if you go over one of these bumps, you just hear it just goes up and down once, goes shock, take care of it really fast. This one had an extra bump in it. So from the get-go, I noticed that there was something weak in the suspension, and especially in the back.
If it was from day one, it could be faulty part right from the factory. Could be a bad shock.
It sounds like you're very in tune with your vehicle, and compared to other people who may talk to you, you definitely sound like you got a beat on how it should feel. And so, but I would not rule out alignment, though. I really wouldn't.
But I just had it aligned.
Doesn't mean they did it right. I tell you what, I aligned vehicles for a long time, and I had a couple people tell me, well, could you check it again? Because something's just not right. And I went, ooh, whoops. Boy, how did I miss that? I got the camber 8 degrees off. What? Yeah, I've had that happen. Or something slips. I look at it and I go, okay, it's perfect. Tighten it up. And I tighten it up and I pull the heads off and I don't look at it again. And as I tightened it, it moved. Distributors, we set the timing. We tighten them up. You got to recheck them because we tightened. Yesterday I was looking, tighten it up. Oh, it moved 5 degrees. Let's loosen it up, move it back again, tighten it up, moved again. Well, let's move it 5 degrees over, tighten. And now it's perfect. So those things can happen. But the two things we look at with something that new is either the product was bad from the factory, a strutter, shock, or something out of a line.
So is that bring it to the dealer and start that process?
With that low mileage, he's still under warranty. He's still under warranty.
But the alignment's not under warranty.
No. They told me on my pickup recently, past 15,000 miles, the alignment doesn't cover. I just had mine in for some stuff. And I needed to have mine aligned because I was getting some growly tires and some cupping on the tires. And so
if he brings it into the dealer, will they drive it? And I mean, might they drive it and go, oh yeah, this is weird.
If it's not covered by a warranty and alignment, I'd be going to a shop that really knows their alignments. You were recently to one, Chris, where the guy's he's smoking a cigarette and he's looking at it. And he can look at your car 100 yards away and go, that one's out of alignment by 2 degrees. I can see it. I can smell it. I knew you were coming in before you even called me. Yeah,
that place is
those are the people you want to talk to.
Go look for the places with the old calendars on the wall. That's the guy you need to. All right, Luther. Good luck with that problem.
I would lean towards alignment, even though you've already had an alignment. Check your air pressure. Maybe rotate the tires and just see if it acts any different.
See if it changes.
See if it changes any. Maybe you got a broken belt, something.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Nick on the chat has a question. 2016 Traverse, 100,000 miles. Smells like coolant inside after you start the car. No external leaks, but the coolant level is dropping slowly. Think it's a heater core? That's his question. That's his...
You need to first check the heater hoses where they go into the firewall and make sure that the couplings, the connectors, are not leaking, have turned to mush and leaking there and running inside. They can do that. If that is not the case, and you smell coolant and it looks like it's sticking to the inside of your windshield and you have to really defrost it to get it off, I'll bet the heater core is leaking.
Yeah, you usually, a lot of times, if it gets to be bad enough, you'll get a film on the inside of your windshield.
A few, those in the Acadias and stuff, very few heater core failures, but we have seen them fail, and KCL is a great fix of that problem. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Because that steam coming out of there is really
got some coolant.
Stinky. Yeah. Okay. I mean, it'll carry the glycol right out, or the OAT coolants too. It's going to carry that right up.
And if he's getting a seep at a hose out under the hood, you'll smell that all day. I mean, that first time every day, you're going to smell that. So you got to look there too, right? Everything should be dry under there.
Yep.
866-594-4150.
I ran across something really interesting, and I'm gonna guess if this should make you two both go,
Real quick, Nick just chatted in on the chat and says, couplings are dry. There is a film. There you go.
KCL.
Yep.
I was like, when I read this. The Ford Lightning got a bad rap at a lot of the test drives because its ranges were just way off.
Mm-hmm.
The range liar, yeah.
Yeah, they didn't match up. They were having problems. Well, Motor Trend did another test recently. I just read this on their online. For whatever reason, I clicked on. I don't very often click on stories that come on the online, but I did, and I read this one quick. But they've done some over-the-air updates, and it's gotten better. But one of the things that they learned that I did not know, and it makes total sense, they were not using the navigation system that's inbred in the vehicle. They were mirroring and using their phone, like with Apple CarPlay or that sort of a thing for their navigation, okay. or Google Play or whatever, Google CarPlay. I can't remember what they call that one, but so it wasn't taking into account the actual route because it defaults to a clear path, no hills.
Oh, straight ground.
Yeah. So the range predictions are tied into the navigation system of the vehicle, and it will adapt based on the route that it's traveled if you use the factory navigation system. But when you're using the mirroring system hooked up with like CarPlay, it doesn't, or Waze or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
it was not able to, it doesn't go gather that data. And so it doesn't understand, so it does a default that actually is going to make the range seem more optimistic because the range you're on might be a more difficult route. You're looking at me with that stare. That's the same feeling that I had, but that this was something that was very intriguing to me, and I want to learn more about it. But
do you want me to tell you what this face is?
What's that face?
Shut up, Ford. That's not it. I mean, that is
No, this was the Motor Trend people saying it.
That sounds like baloney.
I don't think so. They had a pretty good explanation, and I think there's something to this.
Yeah, in reality, you actually get three more miles.
No, but when you're using the factory navigation, it's all baked in and talking to each other. It's all part of that computer system, the data network, and it not only knows how far or how fast, it knows the type of driving, it knows the roads you're on, it knows all those things, especially in this Ford Lightning, which is like an iCloud on wheels. I mean, it's connected. Everything's connected.
I'm not so concerned, though, of what the range left on the dash or my navigation says. I'm more concerned about how many miles will I go between point A and point B before it's dead.
Well, but that's
like
the
horrible.
point. That's the point they're making. This is where their warning lights are coming on, and where the indicators are all based on this. And they're just saying that the data is not accurate, partially in part because they're not using the factory systems.
Then let me say this: if that is in fact the case, fix it.
That's what they said. There's no reason if
the range is horrible, right?
If you're connected by your phone.
Driven it, I mean, sure, the way you drive it on those roads that you take.
The other thing they said on this test was that they just continuously have problems where they get to charging stations and they're either they're broken. Their software is not communicating with the vehicle,
or a gas car is parked.
Then when they finally get to the one they can, there's people there and they're lined up. Their story was it was pretty intense.
There is
and that's not going to get any better as they open up these Tesla stations and different things.
Over the last, I'd say, 2 months to 90 days, I've been hearing more and more people coming across national news that are upset about people parking gas cars and trucks in those electric spots.
That'll do it for this hour of the Under the Hood Show. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, you can find us at underthehoodshow.com.
Yeah. What are we going to do about that?
Well, it's because you're not going the way I wanted you to go. You get better if you'd have gone our way. Sure. But still,
the mileage, the range sucks. It's like 150 miles and they're dead.
No,
I'm mad at.
I was just amazed. I had never even considered that in my life before. That if I'm going to use a mirroring system like CarPlay, which is what I do, if the vehicle doesn't have Google Maps, which I like Google Maps because they do a better job, and when you're in a bigger city, I
use it for range.
No, for to reroute traffic because of construction or whatever it might happen.
I've never used it for range. They're figuring out range, right?
No. What the Ford is saying is if you go the way, and I'm not being facetious here, Ford is saying if you follow our directions, you'll be able to go 30 miles because this is the way you're going.
Okay.
If you go to Google or Waze, it's taking you another direction, and Ford isn't accounting for the direction you're going.
Oh, so I
So
go,
it's
oh,
basically-
Waze
Because
tells me
it doesn't know where you're
So
where you're
Ford is
driving. It
basically
just knows
saying,
you're driving.
From here to there is 10 miles, and you're going around the curve.
So
That
the
is
dash says
making-
you have 50 miles left, and Waze says you have 30 miles to go. I've got plenty of time.
Yeah,
and all of a
exactly.
sudden you're out of juice.
Yep, that's exactly it.
They got to fix that. That's
Which,
wrong.
by the way, I'll also say, I kind of now let me about face on myself. When the EPA says the car can get 50 miles to the gallon, I believe it, and I also know that I'm going to be driving 80 miles an hour on the interstate when it's 14 below zero, so I'm not going to get 50 miles to the gallon.
Yep.
So that's
true.
That is funny that in this case I'm mad at the Ford range, but in a gas truck I wouldn't be mad at the Ford range. I would just know.
But,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. But
So
if
that's
you put the route in the factory navigation, and it knows you're going to go here, and this is, they know, I'm sure, elevations and everything, they're going to say, okay, that's a different projection than if you're just going to drive 100 miles straight at 60 miles an hour.
Still seems like it should say if you're going to get 60 miles, you should
Wouldn't you
get
think the
60
telematics
miles.
would still know where you are and what kind of driving conditions you're in? I mean, but this is almost what you'd expect anymore.
I would think so.
Well, if Apple can tell me what store I'm going to when I leave work at 5 p.m. on a Thursday versus 5 p.m. on a Friday, why can't they tell you? Why don't they know the hills and the terrain? Really, they know. They know everything. They know everything about you.
When your phone beeps and says, "Chris, breakfast is going to be over in 15 minutes. You better get there."
And really, they do that. If every Tuesday you go here instead of your house because you've had to make 10 trips to Menards, to pick up something, and it's Tuesday and it says, okay, here's your thing. Every Thursday morning, it tells me the distance and the time to get here to this studio.
Mm-hmm.
Every other day, it's telling me the distance to get to the shop. It knows where you're going, and it looks at the traffic and it says, should take you 15 minutes. And when I look at it, it says, traffic is heavy, should take you 18 minutes. Well, they're doing that because they're looking at other people. They're watching them as they drive, and they say, oh, it's been taking all our other customers with the actual phone driving the road this long. The traffic must be heavy because it's taking them longer to get from point A to point B. So you could really mess with people and just stop. If you and 10 other friends just drove and kept stopping, it would bump everybody's time up. So they know. They know. They're just messing with you.
Nick has another question on chat. We'll get this one, and then we'll probably wrap up the after show. This is the after show, by the way.
Yeah, we're just completely after.
Nick says, also a question for a 2009 Silverado 1500 5.3, 110,000 miles. Oil pressure starts out normal but drops slowly to zero. Shut off the truck and restart it, and it comes back to normal. Keeps doing it. Already put a new oil pressure sensor in multiple times, plus fresh oil in it, and it won't act up for a month. Then does it again.
They've had so many problems with those sending units on those. Make sure you're using get the best one you can, put it in, and
make sure you clean out the port in the engine.
Yeah, clean out the port. So
isn't there a little? Does that 09 have a little screen in there?
Yeah, a lot of them do, and a lot of times we've just been removing them if everything's clean. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go. I'm going to take the oil filter off. I'm going to take the sending unit out. I'm going to get myself a can of brake clean or carburetor cleaner, and I'm going to spray down through that port on the top of the engine until it comes out clean where the oil filter goes. Then I'm going to go down to AutoZone, and I'm going to pick up a Duralast part for the sending unit. I'm going to screw it in. I'm going to get myself a new oil filter as well. They also have the brake clean and carb clean on the shelf there. We'll put it all back together, and I'm going to run it, and I'm going to be fixed. I just know I'm going to fix it. But the main thing is, if you've been taking this thing off, you're pulling the sending unit out and just putting a new sending unit in, even with a new screen, if you haven't taken off the oil filter and flushed out that passage until it comes out clean on the bottom, it's not going to work. It's not going to last. It may last a month, may last a week, may last a year. It's going to fail. We just went through this with a guy who had repeat failures with that. And now that it's fixed with a new sending unit, flushed out, new oil filter, new oil, all at the same time,
if you've done all that and you know that you're clean, and then the next step would be to put a manual gauge on there and watch it to make sure what's actually happening. And if you can confirm you have good oil pressure and just not a good signal, then you got a problem in your gauge cluster more than likely.
Yeah, that'd be the way.
brake cleaner, carb cleaner just made me think. The
Those are solvents.
The electronics cleaner?
Electronic parts contact cleaner.
Yeah. Is that bad for the environment?
I think all chemicals in some form are bad for the environment. There's nothing that is like 100% safe except for maybe water.
Yeah.
And certain soaps that are naturally made. So then
that gets into what you clean off too. What you wash off is going to be a problem.
They try to make them as minimally invasive to the environment as they can, with things that will break down in a certain amount of time. There are certain things which they have banned forever, like the CFCs, which never go away, and they are drastically harmful to the ozone layer, and it's been proven. So they've pulled it out of stuff and replaced it with
and it worked.
Better things. Yeah,
that's crazy.
They fixed it, and here we are at the point we're at now. If they hadn't have stopped it, the planet would probably be a desert because they were proving there was a giant hole forming, and then when they stopped using it, it started getting smaller, and now it's going away.
Because the electronics cleaner, and the carb cleaner in certain situations, brake cleaner actually. The electronics cleaner I don't use very often. I use it appropriately, but every time I use it, I spend a pretty decent amount of time seeing how fast that stuff will evaporate. Just, oh wow, that's quick. Oh, it just wait. Well, if it, oh, it just that is quick.
And that used to be just CFCs. It was clear. Speaking of,
it's like mercury.
It's like you
play with mercury. It just gets
evaporation.
all weird.
You were talking about the Elon Musk at the last break. You said something he's cool. He said, but they're getting ready to launch the world's most powerful rocket. And when you talk about people think they have a Raptor that's cool because it's got a powerful engine, not like the 33 Raptor engines that are on the super heavy booster that'll actually all ignite this time. They got that fixed. But you talk about and disappearing quick. Oh, it's going. Guarantee it. Maybe.
Is there betting on rocket launches?
I'm
sure.
Is there Vegas odds?
I bet you can.
Sure.
Have you know what goes in there for fuel, right? You seen the fuel going in?
No,
it goes in like 291 minus 291 degrees.
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah, so it's going in, and if you had it in a cup, you think Freon goes quick if you open a Freon can. That stuff is like poof. So they have to put it in to the booster at the last minute, and they fuel the booster at the bottom first because if you fueled the Starship on top, you would crush the bottom because of the weight and the structural integrity. So they do it. If you watch them when they fuel them, they'll ice up on the outside and the bottom will fill and then the top will start filling. And then by the time the bottom is full, the top is full. So they meet each other. But they've got all the beaches closed. They're going to be closed starting on Monday on the 13th. So 13th, 14th, 15th, it's going up on one of these days and it's going to be spectacular. But yeah, for you Raptor fans, we're excited. We're waiting. Right now, this is the beginning, but it's not like when they were running the Falcons and stuff. Yeah, that was cool to see them go up the first couple times, and then after a few unscheduled, unintentional disassemblies, that was neat to see them come down and land like something out of a sci-fi show. But this thing is like watching the Empire State Building blast off, and
they come back and sit back down,
and eventually. They will catch it.
You can bet on it.
Yeah. And what's the bets? Is it
everything, anything you want?
This one, they're going to try to. They're talking about trying to. They've told the FAA, this is where we're going to land it out by Hawaii. They're going to drop the super heavy into the ocean and land it vertically like they do their other ships, and then put it down in the water. Well, now it looks like they're going to try to put it on a drone ship. Which would be incredibly impressive. But if they don't, they're okay. Hits the drone ship, hits the water. They either way, it's going to be spectacular. But
you can bet on if anyone on board will vomit.
Seriously,
yeah, that's what I'm looking
at.
Have
you ever? There's going to be nobody on board.
Had you ever looked it up before?
Never. No.
I don't know why I thought of that.
That's so weird.
I was looking into that thing. We look at how cars work and the stupid things that they do in cars. You go, how does that ever work with cars? So I looked up, how does a self-destruct system work? In that they blew it up, remember? Do you know how that works? Different than I thought. I thought maybe a giant bomb. I'm like, well, where did they put the giant bomb? That wouldn't work. Well, they put these little charges on the fuel tank on the hull, and what it does is if the fuel tank loses integrity, you have the space shuttle Atlantis issue with the O-ring, the Challenger incident with the O-ring seal, little leak and you get integrity failure and boom. Well, they blow holes, not giant, but holes in the sides of the fuel tank. And as the fuel tank loses pressure, you get all the pressure from this thing accelerating and the outside pushing on it. Well, when you start relieving the pressure of the fuel tank dumping outside, not necessarily the fuel catching on fire, which it does because it's leaking outside to a giant fireball anyways, and then the tank loses its integrity and collapses on itself, and then everything just ignites and comes apart. That's why there's so many pieces on the ground when it comes down. It doesn't have like a big bomb in it to go off. But I like Chris,
crazy technology.
In the beginning, this was something that it was like, oh, here we are. But now SpaceX is near 100 launches for the year.
Well, and my son who lives down in Florida is like, he said to me just the other day.
It's every night.
He goes, listen, I'm pretty jaded. I mean, I've watched this stuff for a long time. I've watched it on the internet my whole life. I was prepared when I came down for all of it. And now I regularly see launches. And I still cannot get over when they come back down and land.
Yeah,
he said, if you are available to watch a launch and then watch the boosters come land themselves, it is not, I can't even explain how much
Two
it
of them
doesn't
next to
look
each other.
like any, it's the weirdest.
It's like a
coolest
sci-fi,
thing.
like you're watching TV when you see it.
And he said, and I know I can count it off. I know what it's going to do next. And it's still, you cannot believe it when you're watching it.
If you haven't had a chance to see Starship and the Super Heavy launch booster, which is the world's biggest launch system ever. It's massive, even compared to the Soviet stuff that they've used in the past. Once they perfect landing this in the ocean and on a drone ship, they're going to catch it with this big arm they call Mechzilla. It's what they use to stack the rocket. They grab it, pick it up, turn it, set it on the launch pad. It's part of the tower. They'll eventually send this thing to space. It'll come back down and it'll slow down just where it took off. They'll grab it with the arm and set it back on the ground. Right now,
just like setting down a glass of water.
Yeah.
Right where you
but they
up.
don't. They got to be careful now because they don't want to. That's a big facility. They don't want to crash that thing into their launch facility. They kill everybody. That'd be the end of Elon Musk.
Next week on Under the Moon.
Yeah.
Oh boy,
David Copperfield's going to make the moon disappear. Did you see that? That's his next trick. Yeah. I think that seems irresponsible.
Turn the light switch.
Doesn't he know how important that thing is? Even if just for a couple minutes.
They,
the tides and stuff.
Such ego.
I just think that's.
What did Elon Musk say that was so cool? You were saying.
Oh, I'll tell you off air. It's a whole conversation about what they talked about that was really kind of cool.
Was he on Rogan's show or something?
Yeah.
Rogan is kind of respected and kind of nuts. Like the whole thing where he said, "Oh, the moon landing wasn't real."
I think that's fair to say of
everybody, us too,
present company included. Yeah. All right, that'll do it for the after show. Thanks, everybody. By the way, if you're still hanging in there, you can call that number anytime you want and either leave a message. Well, no, that's all you can do. You can leave a message and we'll call you during the show. So go ahead and call that number and tell us what your question is and tell us how to get a hold of you. And we'll get you on the show. Thanks for watching. And hit the subscribe and the thumbs up and make a comment. All that helps too. The subscribing is huge.
Yeah. And so just even the likes.
Yeah. Thanks.
Like.